Married couples who sleep in separate rooms, why do you do this? Different sleep cycles due to different work schedules. We are still madly in love and we both agreed to this, because it's the best for both of us. My stepmother's parents took this to a new level. He built a second house next door. They lived next to each other for 20 years before they both passed in a short amount of time. It seemed very odd to me, but it worked for them. At least from an outside perspective. I know images never reflect reality. Not exactly the same, but I had a great aunt and uncle who had some kind of huge disagreement early in their marriage and never spoke to each other again even though they lived together. They slept in different rooms, and he spent most of his time at home in his garden. She took care of the house, cooked his meals, did his laundry, etc. etc. He went to work and paid the bills. At family gatherings the men would hang out with the husband in one room and the women with the wife in another. They remained married that way the rest of their lives. When he died she was apparently utterly devastated. That is really interesting. Sleep cycles and she violently tosses around. I've been asked by my commander if I got into a fight when I showed up to duty with a black eye. Gosh, I got up one morning then came back to bed and didn't know my BF had curled up and was laying on my pillow. Elbowed him in the nose super hard. It was dark and I'm blind. It didn't break his nose but it bled a lot. I still feel bad about it. Now I very gently pat around everywhere before I crawl in bed. A few months later he elbowed me hard in the forehead on accident. XD didn't hurt at all but did startle me, haha. If I even try to sleep on the couch in another room I will wake up to her on top of me. That's funny but sweet as hell. Greater than sweet as hell, not related, but this reminds me of the theory that Willy Wonka's chocolate factory was actually a childhood version of Dante's Inferno. Edit, this is a theory I just made up to have something interesting to say, but the more I think of it, it makes sense. Would love to see a remake with a darker, horror type theme maybe. Maybe not? Ike. Okay, look. I didn't mean to punch him in the face. Or kick him in the stomach. He just kept encroaching on my 7/8 of the bed. ITT people with undiagnosed obstructive sleep apnea, let's get some CPAPs up in this thread. We're both 41, been married 23 years and sleep in different beds. First half of our marriage we always slept in the same bed. Of course there was the occasional crying kid who wanted mommy to sleep with them, or falling asleep on the couch or somewhere else. About 10 years ago I spent a year working a midnight shift, so I started sleep on our spare bed in the basement. We both realized we had much better sleep separate in our own beds. After I went back to a day shift we went back to sleeping in the same bed and soon realized sleeping apart was more restful. Over time we bought 2 full-size beds and put them in our bedroom, like the old TV shows. It's been great. Edit, so a lot of comments about intimacy. Yeah, we have sex, I'd say every bit as much as we ever did in the past. We've been married over half our life, so we are really good at knowing when fun time is going to happen. Sometimes we sleep in the same bed, there is no rules we have to sleep separately all the time. Our beds are about a foot apart and sometimes we slide them together, especially when the kids were younger and they'd end up in our room, along with the dog. Edit 2, yes, we got married at 18. We went to prom together and girlfriend somehow got pregnant after prom when we stopped for soda. So we got married. We both realized we had much better sleep is the ultimate answer to this question. I snore and I'm also easily disturbed by movement, so I'm happier in my own bed, and so is my partner. We've settled on separate beds in the same room, which is the sweet spot for us. It's easy to transition from cuddling to sleeping whenever we're ready. Great, this works for you guys. Smile, I'm so different. I sleep better when I can feel his body nearby, even if we are not touching. Must be psychological for me, but I have a harder time falling asleep when I go to bed without him, or much earlier. My grandma and granddad do. She likes it freezing and he likes it boiling. Related but not, my grandparents may share a bed but they do have separate margarine containers. He's a scraper, likes to keep the top of the margarine smooth. She just digs the knife in. They've been married 50-something years and have had this margarine system for as long as I remember. That's the way to solve those stupid problems. Also, for example, if one always eats the other's food because they're not hungry enough to order their own, just order a small thing for them anyway and take it home if they end up not eating it. Girlfriend's parents do this. They both snore and do it to get away from each other's snoring. I didn't think it was that bad until they talked about having to sleep in the same bed during their trip in Europe. They were at each other's throats because if one fell asleep, the other couldn't. Had a roommate in a hotel that snored so loud we would drag him sleeping into the bathroom and close the door. He seriously sounded like a snoring cartoon. Snonk Hugh wow. My buddy is basically married and they have this arrangement. Basically they say they aren't one person just because they're dating. They don't want to be the couple who merges into one entity. They are two separate adults and adults have their own rooms. They're two of the most capable and competent people I've ever met in my life. They have their shit figured out. They are the reason I no longer view two separate rooms as a sign of a dysfunctional relationship. If anything, they make me think most relationships would benefit from their let's not do literally everything together mentality. When my now husband, of 10 years, first moved in with me, when we were dating, I just bought a 3-bedroom house. We decided to have our own bedrooms. More like roommates who were dating than like two people taking the next step. We low-key loved that setup. I had a king-sized bed and he could have a sleepover, but he also worked weird shifts and had his own bed and I had mine and we had our own spaces. It was so nice. Then we got married. And I got pregnant. And it became convenient to just move him into my bedroom. So we became traditional married sleepers. People kind of thought what we did was weird, but it was the best arrangement ever. Something was so satisfying about being together and sharing a house but still having our own private places, too. I realize now, the kids have that with their bedrooms but we really don't. I mean, we are fine and things are great. But there is something special about having a room that is only yours. Married people having to share is kind of strange really, if you think about it. Greater than I realize now, the kids have that with their bedrooms but we really don't. I thought about this recently when my husband, son, and I moved out of our old apartment. I was setting up the master bedroom at the new place and thought I have nowhere to put my stuff. If it doesn't have a place in the living room or on my vanity, then I don't have a place for it in the apartment. My son has his own room and a huge closet all to himself and a desk with plenty of drawers and a work table and his own bookcase. I have the bookcase in the living room and my vanity in half a closet lol. My dream is to get a big house one day and take one of the rooms for myself. Not to sleep in, I like sharing a sleeping space with my husband, but to comfortably keep my stuff and hang out in when I want some quiet. You know, like what my kid has right now lol. I'm a very kinetic sleeper, she's a very light sleeper. Can I make it any more obvious? He tossed and turned, she would just lay. What more can I say? My parents do this, my mom likes to sleep with the TV on, my dad snores and steals sheets. My mother claims sleeping separately saved their marriage. Sounds like me and my husband, except my husband doesn't steal the sheets. He lays on them and I have to either wake him up or use all my strength to pull the sheets from under him, or the good old sheet heave with all your night. I am very familiar with this one. Different sleep cycles and work schedules. He wakes up 3 hours before me. I'm a shift worker. She's a teacher. Your house hunter's budget is $1.6 million. Edit, thanks for the prizes. Glad I was able to amuse. During the summer I moved to another room we call the wind tunnel. Basically I have a ceiling fan going almost 24/7 and a window fan above the bed. I run from 7 p.m. to 8 a.m. She has allergies and easily gets runny nose and sneezes from any moving air. My body temp will skyrocket and I'll sweat like crazy in a room devoid of moving air. So she sleeps in a stuffy no air movement master bedroom and I sleep soundly in the wind tunnel. During the winter I move back cause then I become the ultimate body warmer for her. Do check out Bedjet Edit. Fuck, I wish they had a referral program. /u/bedjet lol edit 2, YouTube to the hilarious commercial, https://www.youtube.com/watch. V equals GZPFHXRGRK. Does that thing really work? My ex used to call me a storage heater. I'm cold all day and the first half hour of the night, then I give off the heat of 1,000 suns the rest of the night. I have a hard time falling asleep without something to distract my brain from thinking. I usually watch a show/documentary or do some repetitive game on my phone to accomplish this. She can't stand the lights from the screen. My wife kills me with the damn phone screen at night. She can't fathom why it bothers me. Wear a sleeping mask. I love mine, it's silky. I snore, she snores. She also puts her arms across my face, which wakes me up and makes me irritated. We blended two households. His bedroom was fully furnished and the furniture and closet were full. It made sense for my stuff to go in a different bedroom. We started out sleeping in one room or the other, but I realized pretty quickly that, if I ever wanted to get a full night's sleep, it wasn't going to be in the same bed with him. I've been known to call him a sweating, snoring, slant-sleeping son of a bitch after a night of his sweating, snoring, and slant-sleeping. We do a your place or mine thing for non-sleeping activities, but GTFO when it's sleepy time. Greater than I've been known to call him a sweating, snoring, slant-sleeping son of a bitch. Well, that seems a bit harsh. Greater than after a night of his sweating, snoring, and slant-sleeping. Oh, right then. He's a lovely person when he's awake. Sleeping, not so much. My parents slept in separate beds, as did my great-grandparents. For my great-grandparents it was a comfort thing. Grandma didn't like not being able to move around the bed at will. She and Grandpa loved each other dearly, and she passed not long after he did because she missed him so much. For my parents it was a couple things. As my dad aged, his sleep cycle went weird. He would be able to sleep a couple hours and then be up half the night and fall asleep again about the time my mom was getting up for work. Also, my mom has sleep apnea and uses a CPAP. It made hella noise back then. Dad was half deaf and the sound still bothered him. Out of respect for each other, they decided it was better to have separate bedrooms. This makes me feel better about my husband and I not sharing a bed. Haha. Some people act like that means your marriage is falling apart. Honestly, it helps us love each other more because I'm not up multiple times a night with his tossing and turning, and he's not up all night listening to my snoring. I feel defensive of it, too. My husband gets up earlier and he hits snooze like 5 times. I am a very light sleeper and it drives me nuts. So we sleep in separate rooms. Deleted. Ask your dentist about getting a night guard for grinding teeth while asleep. My wife has MS, one of the primary issues she has is vertigo. When I'm in the bed with her, the motion of my breathing/heartbeat/movement really fucks with her vertigo while she sleeps. Also, I snore, so an isolated coil mattress wouldn't quite do it. They aren't total isolation, either. You feel movement, or 2 beds in one room. Also, honestly, it spices up the sex life. Adds an element of pursuit and some illicit atmosphere to it. We're sneaking around the house to each other's beds to bang. This sounds encouraging. Every story that I have read so far seems really positive in the sleep section, but I was wondering what happened with the sexy time. It sounds really cool that it spices up things. It definitely takes any of the lazy out of it. We've got to want it. He snores. I have a casual acquaintance that I know sleeps in a different room than his wife. I was curious about why, but I felt it was too personal to ask. And then we went on a bachelor party and I stayed in the same room as him. When we heard him snore, we all knew why. My whole family snores. Like loud. Everyone else in the campground says something about it level. My wife sleeps with earplugs and sometimes I sleep on the couch. I have an aunt and uncle who do this. They're just hyper independent, mostly fueled by her, so they eat dinner together but do pretty much everything else separately. The funny part is if I send out invites to something like a family reunion or dinner reservations during somewhere when we're already gathered, he'll say I'm coming, but you'll need to check with your aunt for her answer. It's certainly not how my relationship works, but they've been married for like 50 years, so I guess I don't have any reason to criticize their methods. Sometimes I have to sleep on the couch cause I get hypersensitive to sound, especially human sound, and don't like the noise his whole existence makes. He gets it luckily. Misophonia real thing. It bothered me as a kid. But I really noticed noises when I came back from overseas. Hypersensitive now. I am actually surprised misophonia has not ended up being a reason for a percentage of violent crimes and disorders. I don't believe it's even on the newest SEM. I have misophonia. I don't like the sound of people drinking something or pouring liquid into something. I have to walk out of the room if it's happening because it makes my blood boil, not exaggerating. Spouse snores, 2 60-pound dogs, and a queen-size bed. No room for me and I need dead silence. You want dead silence and have 2 dogs sleeping on your bed? I'm guessing the dogs are in the other bed. Friends of mine do this. She doesn't like him and feels he's a terrible husband and father. He won't divorce her because it'll cost him his standing in the church, which is the only level of social prestige he has. He's verbally abusive and initially she did it as a wake-up call to encourage him to nicen up. It's going on its 4th year. So what that it will change his status in the church. He's a shit person. Yeah, I may be an asshole but I would A, find out why he acts this way as a man of God and probably B, if he's a dick just out him at church and make him lose his standing anyway. Lol. I do this. I am an absolute terrible person to share a bed with. I snore like a passing semi-truck and apparently, I'm told, flail wildly in my sleep. When we first got married I kept waking up to an empty bed. She would join me for an hour until I was asleep, then retreat to the couch. After a week or 2 I got fed up and just went to the couch first. Then started several months of us trading off for the couch. Eventually I just went and bought a twin mattress and tossed it in the office. That became my bed. And when we got a bigger house, I just set up in a separate room. Have you been checked for sleep apnea? A lot of people don't realize they have it or how bad it's gotten until they get hooked up to a CPAP for the first time in a sleep study. OMG this. I hate the mask but, literally, can't live without it, like I'd die. It's bad. If the sleep apnea didn't kill me my wife would because I snore like a poorly maintained diesel engine. Not separate rooms, but a king bed and separate blankets. We sleep way better. I am a notorious blanket hog and he's always hot when he sleeps. Then we can be close when we want to and separate when we need a good sleep. My husband and I have used separate blankets since right after he first moved in when we were dating, for the same reasons. I'm a blanket hog and love a thick comforter. He can make do with just a thin sheet. To stay married. I would say seriously, but I am serious. Other reasons, 1. She's an only child, never had to share. 2. I had a large family, don't want to share anymore. 3. She likes a soft mattress, and I like a firm one. 4. We both snore, but at different points in the night. 5. Night farts not going to assign blame, there's plenty enough to go around. 6. Her cats don't like to share a bed with my dog. I could go on, but these are the highlights. She wants to sleep in the same room as our newborn baby to be close to him / take better care of him at night. I want to get enough sleep to function at my job. Same thing going on here. Sucks but it's temporary. Sometimes my GF and I sleep in different rooms, and the reasons often differ. Did I eat a big bean burrito earlier? Separate rooms. Just an example. Also, unless your bed is massive, sleeping with someone next to you can make it more difficult to sleep. Yes, sleeping together is romantic. But getting good sleep is more romantic. Surprised I don't see a Bowser's Big Bean Burrito joke here. I thought about it, But I actually have the world record on Bowser's Big Bin Burrito, and I didn't want to brag.